it's fair to say that I have a rather broad interest in film and TV. Whilst on the surface my channel might look like I really only care about animated content, in reality that simply isn't true. I enjoy it of course, and it's by far the most successful stuff on my channel at the moment, so, you know, I got bills to pay and I'm happy to watch. However, every now and then I like to dip my toes publicly into different types of content. One being period dramas. May surprise you as it's not a stereotypical interest for my demographic, but I wasn't raised to be uncultured. My brother and I would watch many a period drama with our parents. Mum would forever have the 2007 Persuasion film on repeat, and we can quote the entire 1995 series and 2005 film adaptation of Pride and Prejudice if our lives depended on it. We even have this card game, Marrying Mr. Darcy, that we whip out every year when we all get together. Needs to be said that I'm entrenched in this world, and therefore I have many opinions. Surprisingly, Bridgerton's done pretty well on my channel, so I thought I'd venture a little further into this world publicly and see what you all think. Anyway, the point of today's video isn't me wishing I was super rich in an English manner and be socially acceptable to dress in tails every day. No, today is where I talk about the supposed new adaptation of Pride and Prejudice. I actually had no idea this was happening until we got a casting announcement a little while ago, and since then, there's been quite a lot of content releasing. It's been a minute until I've been able to sit down and finally share my thoughts on it all. I suppose before I give my thoughts on it, I should lay out everything we know on the table and then work through my opinions. First up, because we have both a famous film and TV adaptation, this will be a 6-part series, on Netflix no less. It's being written by Dolly Alderton, directed by Euros Lyn, and so far the cast consists of Emma Corrin, who's going to play Elizabeth, Jack Lowden, who'll play Mr. Darcy, and Olivia Colman, who's going to play Mrs. Bennet. No release window at this time, but it's meant to go into production this year. As far as I'm aware, that's all the real information we've got so far. Initial reaction, I have to be honest, was one of trepidation. For multiple reasons. I mean, how could they top the two classics? I have a lot of nostalgia for both the BBC series and the 2005 film. It's just difficult to imagine another retelling living up to that insane high. I quickly got over that though. I mean, the first two are always going to exist even if this one sucks, and whilst it might initially seem weird having another adaptation, Pride and Prejudice is an old work. Why shouldn't there be more retellings? That's literally the world of Austen. There's always new screen adaptations, and there's probably been others since 2005 I haven't heard of. If I can get through and actually enjoy some of these Disney remakes, I can deal with a new Pride and Prejudice. The second curveball that hit me though, was the fact that it's being made by Netflix. Why would I be worried about Netflix, you might ask? After all, Bridgerton's made by Netflix, and that's extremely popular, and you'd be right. I do love Bridgerton, and I'm very frustrated I have to wait so long for season 4, but I digress. The reason I'm so nervous for Netflix to adapt Pride and Prejudice is because they've attempted a Jane Austen adaptation previously. Their 2022 film, Persuasion. If you're in the Jane Austen sphere, you'll know how egregious this film was. At this point, I really do think that any romance film starring Dakota Johnson should be avoided at all costs. Like I mentioned previously, my mum loved the 2007 version, so I had to give it a shot. Genuinely turned it off within the first 5 minutes. I just knew how terrible it was going to be, and I wasn't going to suffer through it for close to 2 hours. It's set in the correct time period from what I can tell anyway, but the speech is modern. Ugh. Imagine if Enola Holmes had no charm, met with the lead having the charisma of Mr. Collins. It's just an absolute mess. That's all I can say. To double check my sentiment, I even had to go and watch the trailer again to just make sure that Dakota Johnson was attempting a British accent or if the story had been transplanted to America. As it says on its Wikipedia, it is an American historical romance film. And so I saw that she is doing one, but I also had to put my fist in my mouth to prevent me from screaming from the cringe. How they fragrantly disrespect Jane Austen like that. Legitimately, what is the point of adapting a period story if you're going to take away everything that makes it special? It's insanity, that's what it is. So that's why I have a hard time trusting Netflix with Jane Austen. After committing that crime against humanity with a less popular work of Austen's, what on earth are they going to do to the Holy Grail? It seems, though, that Netflix was quick to reassure fans this would be a period-faithful adaptation. A lot of good that did for Persuasion. But I suppose we should take this at face value. We can only hope they learn their lesson, and that they do deliver on an awesome series with a Netflix-style budget. I'm nervous, but we'll see. Next up, we got the director, the writers, and the cast. We'll get the first two out of the way, as I know considerably less about them and have less to say. The writer is Dolly Alderton. To be honest, I don't know much about her. Apparently, she wrote an award-winning memoir that was turned into a TV show that she worked on. It's been pretty well received on Rotten Tomatoes, but there isn't a hard number on how many actual reviews. Doesn't seem to be a whole lot, otherwise they'd say, so while she may be good and some diamond in the rough type of writer, I do think it's kind of a big job to give to a relative no-namer. If the show was that good, you'd think it'd be extremely popular, but from where I'm standing, it was fairly middle of the run. She's written in the romance sphere before, so I suppose that's good, but it's also been compared to Sex and the City, which isn't exactly the vibe you want for Pride and Prejudice, I don't think. She's a very big unknown, so I'm really not that sure. My hunch says it's a big gamble, but we'll see. The director, Euros Lyn, is again someone I haven't heard of really, but I'm not as unsure about him. He's got far more credits. He's directed one of my favourite Sherlock episodes, and directed the first 2 seasons of hit Netflix show Heartstopper. I haven't personally seen it, but I do know it's extremely popular, and he clearly knows how to do romance well. Looking at his Wikipedia, he's actually directed episodes for quite a few big-name shows, so I do feel confident in his ability. Unfortunately though, there's only so much you can do with the directing if the writing's pretty shit, so hopefully the writer's good. I think it's fair to say I've waffled on enough to get to the info that you actually care about. The casting. We've only got 3 names so far, and my initial reaction is a bit mixed. We have Emma Corrin as Elizabeth Bennet, Jack Lowden as Mr. Darcy, Olivia Colman as Mrs. Bennet, and I suppose we'll start with Emma and work our way to Olivia. I won't deny Emma's a very talented actor. I loved them in The Crown, thought they were great in Deadpool and Wolverine. They've been in a whole bunch of stuff that I haven't seen but I know was popular, like Nosferatu. Gotta be honest with you, I talked a big game about how eclectic I was with my taste in movies, but one genre I largely do not like or touch at all is horror. Couple that with weird Twilight vibes and I just don't care for it. That's neither here nor there though. I know they're a good actor and I absolutely won't deny that. Considering the difference between Princess Diana and Cassandra Nova, it's obvious they've got a lot of range. However, I have to be honest with you, I just don't see it. I may be proven wrong and I'll be happy to be, but I'm not sure they've got the right vibe. Both Kira and Jennifer had this feeling of quiet righteousness and stability. Quippy, but in a dignified way. Elizabeth Bennet isn't really a character that wears her heart on her sleeve, but that's the exact type of vibe I've gotten from other characters Emma's played. I think the emotion they may bring to the role, whilst realistic, might be too open for someone like Elizabeth. Again, I know you should judge an actor based on whether they're good in their roles and convincing. You kind of can't deny that actors are definitely better in particular roles. I'm just not sure about Emma for this one. They've certainly got a lot to live up to. Next up, we have Jack Lowden as Mr. Darcy. If we're talking about high expectations, this feels like the peak. Everyone loves Colin Firth and Matthew McFadden's versions. They're both different enough that you don't even feel the need to compare them because they offer something completely different to the role. Coming into it for the 3rd time though, that opportunity to carve out something else feels a bit more difficult. The comparisons I think may become a bit more obvious. The dude's resting face feels very similar to Colin Firth's vibe from the 1995 version. I think fans are in the general consensus that the 1995 adaptation feels a bit closer to the book, and so I do find it interesting he has a similar feel. I haven't seen him in a whole lot. He was Sauron briefly in season 2 of The Rings of Power, which, to be quite honest, didn't have the whole heartthrob look I presume the show was going to go for, so I can't really judge much from that. He was also in Dunkirk, which I really should get around to watching. I'm not 100% sure how important his role was within the film, but I figure he had to be good to get into a Christopher Nolan movie. It's harder for me to judge him because I haven't really seen him in anything. He's got a lot of acting credits, and not just those endless lists where he's a fringe character or is in a show or movie no one cares about. He's got big ticket movies under his belt. I don't know, I feel uneasy about him. He kind of gives off the same vibe as Johnny Flynn from the 2020 Emma movie. He acted well in the role and the film was genuinely good, but he didn't feel like a romantic lead. I might be talking out my ass here, the dude is handsome, but there's a difference in romantic lead versus simply being handsome. It's more vibes than anything else. This could be a bad take because I've only ever seen him in one thing ever, but this is just my initial reaction. Finally, we've got Olivia Colman as Mrs. Bennet. No notes, perfection. The internet seemingly agrees with me. It feels as though this role was made for her. I genuinely cannot wait for this adaptation for her performance alone. You know in those Oscar speeches she did where she talks really fast and erratically? I can see her bringing that energy to Mrs. Bennet and having so much fun with the role. She's also got a motherly vibe and excellent comedic timing. I think she's going to do great. As for the rest of the cast, absolutely no idea. I've been perusing various Austen and Pride and Prejudice subreddits and somebody suggested Hugh Laurie for Mr. Bennet, which just feels perfect. The perfect foil for Olivia Colman. Looks the part and would just be a lot of fun. Netflix, if you haven't decided yet, please call this man and offer an obscene amount of money. Do whatever you gotta do. Just get him into the role. For some reason, this concept has just reminded me of the scene from the Muppets movie where they have a celebrity host and so they kidnap Jack Black and force him to perform. Netflix, I need you to treat this as seriously as that. I can no longer think of anyone who could be better. Of course, there's the very real possibility Hugh Laurie is not Mr. Bennet, so we'll have to wait and see. I'm interested if the rest of the cast are going to be big name actors like these 3 are. It'd be a pretty stacked cast if they got household names for any of the other roles. It is only a one-time adaptation though, and they don't have to worry about sequels and the like, so Netflix could very well commit if they think it's going to draw big numbers. I wonder how many hours the Pride and Prejudice movie and TV show has racked up on Netflix. Could be a very big reason as to why they've decided to make their own. It's oozed into pop culture. There's a literal joke in the Barbie movie as to how popular this is. Netflix would obviously have a better idea than me, but it does feel odd to think of a relative nobody acting alongside Olivia Colman, or in any of the other roles really. Hindsight's 2020, but looking back, especially on the movie adaptation, so many of the actors are big names. It's weird to think of people you don't know playing these type of roles. Although I can't think of too many movies I've seen with the cast of the 1995 series, excluding Colin Firth, and that adaptation's probably my favourite, so it doesn't mean it's going to be bad. Again, this is all extreme speculation. I have very little to go on, and I'm trying my absolute hardest to make this a long video. I would assume if production starts this year, it's going to release in 2026, but you never know these days. Bridgerton Season 4's been filming for about 8 months, and who knows when we're going to see that come out. Don't hold your breath in any case. Overall, I feel mixed but optimistic about this adaptation. Nothing Olivia Colman's in could be bad, so she really is the shining light of this whole thing. Netflix probably also doesn't want to mess this one up either, otherwise they're going to be the laughingstock of Austen adaptations forevermore. I have a feeling they've learnt their lessons though. Maybe being unsure about Emma Corrin and Jack Lowden will be a good thing, because maybe they can offer something we haven't seen before. Maybe the lady that wrote that one romantic show really is good, and her career's going to blast off into the stratosphere from this adaptation. Who knows? Certainly not me. My job is to sit in my house making judgmental, baseless assumptions for your entertainment, so I hope it was worthwhile. With all that being said though, these have just been my opinions, and now I'd like to hear yours. What do you think of the upcoming Pride and Prejudice Netflix series? Are you excited for it? Maybe not. What about the castings? Anyone you'd like to see in it? I'm curious for your thoughts, so make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know.